Ah, I love how as soon as I'm about to record, my allergies starts acting up. So please forgive me as I go through this video. You might hear me like honk or make really horrible sounds. So please forgive me. But we do not delay for anybody. This is the Last of Us 2 video that I promised. I have one more disclosure before we begin. I highly recommend, after you've done watch a playthrough or play the game of Last of Us Part 2, I highly recommend you go over to the Last of Us 2 spoiler class with Ashley Johnson, Troy Baker, and the master, the villain himself, Neil Cuckman, or Neil Druckmann, as you like to call him. And I highly recommend you watch that video. Not only does it give you more detail onto certain story decisions that this game does, but it also gives to show you the love and care that Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker have for these characters. Hearing them talk about this game, Part 2, really was an eye-opener. It made me feel like, like, they really had they really, 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 really care about these characters more than anybody. And especially Ashley Johnson, which we haven't even begun, and I want to just commend her the most because she holds this game together. That being said, let's get on with this video. So, before we begin, I have a question to the people who played Last of Us. 1. My question is, to you, why do you think Last of Us is so special? I'll give you time to think. You can pause the video and you can tell me what to you is the reason why Last of Us is so special. A lot of people would say it's because of great storytelling. Some people would say because of graphics. Some people would say it's because of representation, all that stuff. But to me, the most important thing which makes Last of Us stand the test of time through all the video games and why it's my personal favorite video game, one of my favorite video games of all times, and why it's one of my a game of the decade for me, is because Last of Us is a story about zombie apocalypse and is about humanity and the best and the worst of humanity. But to me, what makes Last of Us stand the test of time is the relationship between Joel and Ellie, Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker. These two lovely people right here makes these characters so believable and so rich and so nuances. And also, Neil Druckmann, we'll have to give him credit this time. This is in the video where he gets the credit. Makes these characters so lovable and so real that we connect on them for so many different reasons. The bond that these guys go from being two people from two different walks of life. Joel being a person who has lost everything ever since the outbreak, and Ellie going from a world that is dark and brooding, but being kind of the hopeful, optimistic person she is. To have those two go from across the United States and country while they learn to bond with each other is the most beautiful story experience I think I've ever seen. One of the beautiful stories experience I've seen in video game. Absolutely. Um, it is by far very great. It pushes the boundaries of what video games can be. That's why I'm such an advocate for video games being art. Not every video game needs to be art and has something to say. Hell, Devil May Cry 5, as everybody knows, or has a lot to say, but, you know, it's kind of dumb. It's kind of silly. It knows when to have fun. It knows when to not take itself serious. But it is games like Last of Us that pushes the boundaries and why it has been remembered for so time. And I think it's because of those two characters, Ellie and Joel. Now, with that being said, a lot of people always argue, well, they shouldn't have done a sequel. They should have did a sequel. And whether you are either one way or the other, the inevitability is that a sequel would eventually had came. As much as I was not for a sequel, I knew a sequel was going to come. But I said to myself, if we're going to come back to the world of Last of Us, I would not like for Neil Druckmann and the team to touch Ellie and Joel. Because these guys are so sacred. Their bond and the love is so sacred to a lot of us. It means a lot to people. That if you touch it and you fuck it up, people are going to be upset. There's a reason why I'm saying all this. Because this game does a lot. And I did say, let's start Last of Us 2 with brand new characters, a brand new world, and let's go from there. And does Last of Us 2 do that? Yes. And no. Last of Us 2, in all means, is a continuation of Last of Us 1. For people who are saying it doesn't connect to Last of Us, it does. It still fits onto the same themes of humanity. It still has the same things that the last one had, which is the brutal violence, but also the light between the tunnels, between the darkness, I should say. This is just more heightened. Now, I'm just looking at my notes. Please forgive me. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Is Last of Us 2 a good game? The short answer is yes. Last of Us 2, as a whole package, is a good game. For anybody who says that the game is not a good game, you are either listening to other people's opinion, you are either not looking at it as a full package, or you just have some hatred agenda that, you just don't think. You just have some hatred agenda against the game. Because that's what I've noticed, is that a lot of people who hates this game hate it and haven't tried it or haven't played it, and it's just going off of other people's opinions. So when I say that Last of Us 2 is a good game, I mean as a whole package it is a good game. That being said, Last of Us 2, what holds Last of Us 2 from being on the level of Last of Us 1, what holds it back from being a great game, an amazing game, is this man himself, Neil Druckmann. What holds it back, and at some points what elevates it, is Neil Druckmann. And what I mean by that is Neil Druckmann, due to poor writing decisions, poor execution, and poor character decisions, and poor pacing. Let's let's get that to your head. Pacing ruins Last of Us 2. The writing at points hits marks that are on the same or even not better than The Last of Us 2. And then there are moments where the writing fumbles and falls down and goes flat on its head and is nowhere near hits the marks that it should hit. And as someone who loves the first game, it hurts to say that. Like, this game is a good game when you look at it as it is. From gameplay to music to art direction to the details and everything works. The story just doesn't work. The story has a lot of cool ideas, but the story ruins Last of Us. And I feel so bad. I feel so bad for all the hard-working men and women who worked on this game. Because everyone's trashing on it. Everyone hates this game. And some of the complaints are rightfully earned. And some of it has nothing to do with gameplay. You know what's funny? None of the complaints are about gameplay. When I tell you I've been on a roller coaster of emotions through playing this game, I I I I, I don't know what to say. This game has had me. There are moments where I've said this game is fucking awesome. I love it. I went through saying this game is fucking bad. I went through saying this game is okay. I went through feeling fucking sad, depressed at one point, fucking happiness, hopefulness. I went through the whole entire roller coaster of this game. So I can understand how people feel. To address why I think a lot of people hate this game, we obviously know some of it, but obviously some people hate the game because of they have political, they feel the game has a lot of political SJW stuff because Neil Druckmann, he doesn't like, to write his females. He likes to be diverse, but not really diverse because if we really are talking about diverse, we're talking about people from all types of walks of life, and that also includes fat people, which I have not seen any fat people in The Last of Us, but whatever. Um, a certain character, Abby, which she will come back to play later on in this video. And I've also heard one person say that they don't like the game because of the violence. The violence served no purpose. The violence is too much. Which I want to remind people that the first game was violent. This is just taken to the next level. Again, I think the violence serves a purpose in showing the worst of humanity. So when you do get to the best of Last of Us, when you are in the light, they are very beautiful. There are multiple scenes where this game is absolutely tug on the heartstrings. And there are great, hopeful moments in this game. So it's not as jaded as some people think it is. It's not. I think the violence just shows you how dark humanity can be at points. which is the theme of Last of Us, humanity. One of the themes of that goes through all of The Last of Us is humanity. Anywho, but I want to talk about the things that people are not talking about. And then we could talk about story. Because, like I said, I think this game is a good game. I just think that the story falls apart. So, let's talk about something that's very important to me, um, which is the gameplay. But in particular, let's talk about Last of Us 2 accessibility features. Now, let's talk about the accessibility feature. The accessibility feature in this game is by far very impressive. And I honestly wish more video games would do this. The accessibility feature allows you to fuck with basically debug mode. The accessibility feature in this game is by far the most outstanding thing I can give Naughty Dog and the team. This game literally can be played from everybody. Whether you're blind, whether you have a learning disability like me, who sometimes have a hard time reading certain things, whether it be turning visual cues, audio cues on, everything. This game does it. And it is so fucking cool, the things that this game does with accessibility. And I know a lot of people don't care about this, but this means a lot to me. Again, as someone who, again, has learning disability, the subtitles really helps a lot. But the simple fact that you could change the color of the subtitles, you could change the subtitles and the color of who's talking and where and who's talking at what point is fucking awesome. This game deserves numerous props for the things that it do. Numerous props for just allowing people of any type to play. And I wish more video games. I know not every video game can do this because of due to, certain video games, just can't do it. But I would love more video games to be able to, at least more first party games, to be able to do stuff like this. I think Naughty Dog is paving the way for more accessibility in video games, and I would like to see more. Also, some of the things that the accessibility does is that contrast. Like, you turn the whole game gray and all the enemies are red, your character is blue, and items are yellow. Again, dope as hell. If you want to turn off UI, if you want to make the UI better, if you want to change the color of the whole game, and not reticles, you can do it. I actually have my reticle on yellow in the game as to fit in with the cordyceps. The cordyceps are kind of yellowish. So I did it like that. But the simple fact that you could do this is fucking amazing. Again, I can't praise them more enough. Another big thing I'm gonna praise them for in terms of the accessibility is dynamic customization of difficulty. In the game, you have light, very light, light, medium, normal mode, hard mode, survivor, which is very hard. And what you can do is that, let's just say, well, I want to play it on survivor where all the enemies are relentlessly hitting me. The game is difficult. I'm having a hard time, but I want to have a bunch of ammo at my disposal. You can have the slider say, okay, do you want items and weapons to be dropped more often? Or do you want to have the game be super easy, but you have little to no items? You can do that. If you want enemies to be kind of dumb, you can do that. Again, the accessibility option in this game is amazing, and no one's talking about this stuff. And I love it. I love it. The customization of the difficulty is amazing. Again, you do not have to turn any of this on. And I will admit there are some of the accessibility options that is fucking hilarious. Like there is one accessibility option that allows you every time when you go prone, lay on the floor, you turn invisible. And I shit you not, it makes the game hilarious. It like enemies are just stepping on you, and it's hilarious. But if that's something you want to turn on, you can do it. Now, moving on. Let's talk about the graphics. I just want to point out how beautiful and great this game is in terms of graphics, in terms of facial animation, in terms of like just how this game runs on the PS4 is amazing. There are moments where this game runs like it's on a fucking PC, or it looks like it's on a PC. Like, play this shit on a 4K TV, or just turn on your plug in your 4K monitors or whatever, and this game looks absolutely gorgeous. And even without 4K, this game looks absolutely stunning. The amount of details that is on display in this game is by far amazing, and it is beautiful. The lightings on the trees, and the fucking detail of like certain like legs getting popped off, gunshot wounds. The amount of detail that this game has is by far amazing. By far. By far amazing. I don't know how much I can praise the graphics in this game. Um, I don't know why Ellie's face looks like that in the fucking cutscene, by the way. That. Anywho, we'll get into that. Anywho, now, I want to talk about the gameplay, and then we're going to try and run through and go into what people really want to talk about, the story. The gameplay. Let's talk about some new gameplay elements and stuff that the gameplay does right, in my opinion. So, the gameplay. Why is this game fun? This game is fun because it improves on every single thing that The Last of Us 1 did. You expect that from a sequel. But, holy shit. After playing Last of Us 2, I do not want to go back and play Last of Us 1's gameplay. One of my biggest complaints in terms of the controls of Last of Us 1 is that a lot of the gunplay felt kind of gunplay, in particular the controls, felt kind of stiff. And in this game, the gunplay is by far amazing, and it is tighter. I noticed I was getting headshots way more often. I noticed I was moving a little bit more fluider. Fluider is not even a word. Fluid than the previous game. The simple fact that you could go and shoot, switch guns faster, everything just flows very great. Last of Us 1 did not have that. Last of Us 2 has that fluid control scheme that I love. And also they moved the swaying a lot. The swaying isn't as bad as Last of Us 1, so it makes it really good. Let's talk about your companions. Throughout the game, you're going to have your companions with you. Sometimes you're not, but sometimes you will. And the companions are way more better than Last of Us 2. Last of Us 1. Last of Us 1 companions break immersion way too fucking much. Way too much. Way too much, my niggas. Like, there will be moments where Ellie would be, like, standing right next to the enemy, and it's like, what? And the enemy doesn't see you. This time, your companions will stand back if you're in a stealth scenario. They won't get in the way, and only when you are in a stealth scenario will the AI actually do something. But the moment you go back into a stealth position, they hang back. They know when to operate. You can even, in the accessibility option, you can turn the AI to be helpful or not helpful depending on how you want to handle it, and it just works so good. Human enemy AI is also improved, better than the first game. In the first game, the human enemies would be kind of dumb. They would just charge at you for no reason. They would see you right in your face and do nothing. And for the most part, that doesn't happen. There will still be occasions where the human AI will be a little dumb, but for the most part, they will flank you more. I did notice that they will use different tactics. They will gang up on you a lot more. And they will communicate with each other way more than the last game. And it works. It creates different gameplay opportunities. You can still kind of manipulate the AI, but it's way more functional than Last of Us 1. Now, one thing I love so much about this game, in terms of combat, in terms of everything, is I love the dynamic combat, as I like to call it. The dynamic combat is more possible in this game than in Last of Us 1. And what I mean dynamic combat is what I mean like in Uncharted 4 is a perfect example of you could go into cover. You could go into stealth situation, out of a stealth situation, into a full action movie combat scenario. And in this game, you could do that, but it's more grounded and it's more, I would say, survivalist way you can do it. I'm going to show a gameplay of what I mean.
Something in there, girl? You think this guy's connected to the girl from school?
That'd be a hell of a coincidence if they were. Okay.
I know you're out there.
And it's so fun, so cool. Last of Us 1, you could try and do that, but it wasn't as fluid as it is in here. And in this game, it's just fun. Again, I think the gameplay sells this fucking game so much. So much. And, bruh, I'm happy for it, man. I really enjoy it. Other gameplay stuff. As you saw, you can prone now. You can like get on the floor and like crawl, and it opens up more stealth and combat opportunity. In fact, you could dive on the floor, and you just saw that in the gameplay. And it kind of reminded me of, I don't know if anybody's played Resident Evil 6. You could dive into combat and stuff, and it's so satisfying. Oh, you feel like an action hero when you do it. It just works. It just works. It just works. The dodge mechanic. The dodge mechanic in this game is by far very helpful, especially when you're fighting infected. Because I didn't even talk about the infected and how impressive they are now in the game. But the dodge mechanic. One other thing I want to give total props to is the sound. Sound design, and also the fucking brutality of this game. The brutal shit you can do, as you saw in the gameplay. I love when you kill an enemy's friend. They scream out their name and it's like, motherfucker, you just killed Kenny. What the fuck? Like, it is so good. Gets my nipples hard. Gets my nipples hard all the time. It's so good. It feels good. It feels tight. It makes the world. It makes it feel like a real world situation. Now, in terms of um, the infected is way more fun to fight. Um, Let me just go through all of them real fast. Uh, runners. Runners are now more aggressive. They bum rush you even more. They don't come in just one by one. I noticed they come in packs now. They live up to their names called runners, and they come after you with full force. Clickers are way more sensitive. I mean, actually, I skipped the stalkers. I'm sorry, stalkers. You guys, I always forget about you guys. I'm sorry. Ever since Last of Us 1, I always forget about you guys. But this game does you guys justice. Those motherfuckers are actually very annoying now. They're more frequent through the game, which I love so much. But they also take full full advantage of large indoor environments, and I love how they slip through cracks. They go, you can actually see them through thing peeking like I see you, nigga. Like I see you through that crack, boy. Like come through, get the shotty in your face, boy. I love how they walk like chimpanzees, and they are just so much more entertaining to fight than Last of Us One. And Last of Us One, there's only 2 sections in the game where you fight them, and it's just like mm, mini Nidioso. Bloaters. Not bloaters. Sorry, clickers. Going back to the clickers again. Now, clickers. Now, their designs look so beautiful now. Still disturbing, but still so beautiful. Now you can actually see some of the plants coming out of their bodies and whatnot now, and it's so like mwah, mwah, mwah. Once again, doing my boys clickers justice. They're way more sensitive to sound, so they will easily detect you if you decide to like just crouch, walk, speed walk. So that's great. Again, bloaters are now mini bosses. They're not present as the game. There's only like 3 of them I've caught so far. And honestly, they feel like mini bosses. They removed, from what I noticed, they removed the instant kill, but now they charge at you way more, and they hit like a fucking truck. Um, and they're just fun. And also, they come with posses now, so the runners come with them, and they make it even more dangerous. Shamblers, which is the new infected type. There's only one infected type in this game. Um, which I'll get into that when I get into my negatives of the gameplay. Um, the shamblers are fucking annoying. They charge you and then sport acid gas. It is annoying when you have to deal with that plus runners plus stalkers at the same time, plus clicker. It gets very frustrating at points. Luckily, Molotov cocktails are your friends, so you can get rid of them pretty fast. Um, the human versus infected. The humans versus infected is really nice in this game when it happens. It's a continuation of what they did in the Left Behind DLC. Um, and it's really cool. The problem is um, there's not a lot of it in the game. But for the most part, when it happens is really fucking cool, and there's way more of them on the screen together, and you can you can do some really funny, cool stuff. Like have a guard as a shield, and then bring it to a clicker, and the clicker will grab them and shit. It's so dope. Um, but yeah, gameplay wise, this game is amazing. Um, in terms of what I didn't like about the gameplay, I'm not a huge fan of the upgrade system. I think the upgrade system kind of lackluster. Um, from the marketing, it seemed like, oh, you can you can now choose the type of role or type of character you want your Ellie to be, and I was excited. I was like, oh snap, we're gonna have um like skill trees, so you could customize and pick. My Ellie would be different from your Ellie, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be so dope to figure out what type of Ellie people are like coming up with. Like, oh, if my Ellie's gonna be like a bow master, so I'm gonna have all the bow skills a lot. Or oh, my Ellie's gonna be like a crafting master, so she's crafting shit mad fast, throwing them out. She could carry like 6 to 9, 8 Molotovs or whatever. I was really hoping for that, and the skill tree does not help at all. Skill tree is not that good. I'm a little disappointed in the skill tree. Um, Again, some of the enemy AI is really, really, really bad. Sometimes they will spot you instantly on harder difficulties. Other times they will just be like, doesn't catch on too quickly, or like you'll be like somewhat close to their face and they still like won't pick up on you. Again, it's AI can sometimes be can be a little silly. Not as bad as the last game. Not as bad as of Last of Us. So yeah, it's not as bad. Also, in terms of gameplay, not enough infected versus humans. I don't know what happened. Um, Left Behind opened the floodgate for this, and I was expecting a lot more scenarios where that happened. There's not that much parts when that happened, and I'm a little disappointed. Um, very disappointed. Very, 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 very disappointed that there's not a lot of it. But when it's there, it is cool. So I'm not gonna knock them too hard, but kind of sucks. Now we are
Post interruption right here. I don't know why. I totally forgot this. One of my other complaints about the gameplay section is that there's only one new infected, which, as much as I give them credit for having different variety of infection, there's not enough new infection. And again, the virus has been around for 24 years. By now, I expect to see way more infected. I don't know why there's no more infected, or they didn't come up with it. Hell, I said I didn't want no dog infected. At this point, I would have loved to see some, but like I said, I think they should have came up with way more infected. Either, like I said, dog infected, infected with, weapons or something like that. Some more variations would have helped out, and also flesh out the world of Last of Us even more. Don't know why there's only just one new one. Eh, whatever. Eh, it is what it is.
coming near the end of the gameplay, but I just want to give out a few more things about about the environment and how you're traversing. Um, the environment in Traversal is almost like Uncharted. So you'll grab a rope and you'll slide down this area, and this area leads into this whole new environment that tells its own personal story. Um, there are multiple places when you get to the open world section at the beginning of the game, um, that is like Uncharted 4 Lost Legacy, the little standalone story. They took heavily inspiration from that, so now you can go to areas and loot and find out personal stories of what happened to the area before shit hit the fan. Um, some of the environment storytelling is way better in this game. Is I wouldn't say some of it. All of it is way better than it is in the first game. They took a lot of inspiration from Uncharted 4 because Uncharted 4 had a lot of environment storytelling in that game. A lot of things you're like, why the fuck is it like that? And as you read notes, as you explore, you'll find out they take it to the next level with bodies and corpse and everything infected and everything telling this unique story of what happened in the area. Some of them that stood out to me, and some of them isn't even like what's the word? Some of them doesn't have enemies, but some of them are just really good. So a few areas or um, environment storytelling that I liked is the bank. There's a section in the game early on in the game where you go to a bank, and you basically go through a bank, and you notice that a bunch of clickers are wearing armors, and you're like, okay, what the fuck happened here? And as you eliminate the clickers and you eliminate the infected in that area, you read some of the notes and you find out through reading the notes that motherfuckers were trying to rob the bank on Outbreak Day, which is fucking hilarious to me. Only dumbass would think about doing that shit. But yeah, they robbed the bank on Outbreak Day, and one of the robbers gets trapped in there. He's like, and he writes a note saying like, "Oh, I, I, I can't believe one of my homeboys left me in here. I'm definitely snitching on him when I get out of this whole situation. Fuck him. La 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 la. Can't wait for the cops to come. The cops never showed up. Funny, funny, funny. Music store. No affected, but the dialogue between Dana and Ali. I said Ali. Ellie is so good. There's also a missable cutscene in the game where Ellie sings "Take Me On." So can actually sing. It was really, really fucking good, and you could completely miss that. And Dana and Ellie have multiple conversations about music in that whole part. Um, Another environment storytelling is the WLF Runaways. That was really cool because there's a part where you have to go. I mean, where you are making your way to. It's before you have the your first encounter with the stalkers, and you go into this house and the door is locked. And okay, so you have two ways. You can go through the back door. You can go through a window, a back door, and a basement. You could go through, and when you go through and you loot the place, when you go to a upgrade system, out of nowhere, the WLF, which is the faction, the new factions group in the game, they will come and start, you know, checking you and shit. And you can be, and they be like, or I'd be like, bruh, bad English, my bad. They will say, we're not going back to the WLF. And for me, I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Can we please talk about this before shit popped off? Could not stop it. Could, yo, had to kill all of them. Blew off one of their legs with a shotgun. And then later on, as you explore more of the house, you find out that these guys were just hiding out there because they generally was afraid of the the war between the Seraphites, which is the religious cult group in the game that whistles to communicate and only use bow and arrows, and the WLF, which is more of militant group. Um, that whole situation and seeing how um, certain people on both sides are not inherently bad, and some just are just like, we don't want anything to do with the war that's going on, was really cool. I did feel bad about killing those guys, but they didn't want to. They didn't want to talk down or talk it out. Um, a Scar victim. That was another one that was sad. So there's this Scar victim that you meet that had like uh, that you go through a window and you see blood on the window and you're like, oh shit, here we go, infected or a human, let's fight. You go through the door and there's this guy that has died, and you check the note, and the note says, I've been shot by a Scar, aka Seraphite member, and I'm bleeding out, and I'm not going to be able to make it to my pregnant wife. Here's some pills. Please go give this, no matter what, please go give this pill to my wife. She needs it. I'm so sorry that I couldn't give it to her. Please, you're my only hope. And I just was like, bruh. When I read that, I was like, ah. And even Ellie's like, sorry, dude. I wish I could do something. I was like, bruh, I really wish I could find the lady. Um, Two more, and then we're wrapping this up. Then there was the Comic Con um, little convention, little thing, when you're with Jesse in the game, and Ellie's basically is like, what is this stuff? And Jesse comments like, I have no idea, but it seems like the comic book stuff you're in, and it seems like a gathering of sort. And I just thought to myself, I was like, can you imagine if Ellie was at Comic Con? So good. I'm like, I think she would enjoy it a lot. Bring Dana along as well. Um, Hillcrest, and the last but not least is Hillcrest story is really, 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 really sad. It covers the theme of Last of Us, which we're gonna get into a bunch of themes of Last of Us, but seeing how like one person's act of vengeance caused his whole community everything was really, 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 really sad. And that's really it about gameplay. Again, I think the gameplay, again, if I had to give the gameplay, um, I would give it a low 9. But, again, not a lot of complaints I have with the gameplay. So with that being said, now we're going to move on to the story. Because I think that is where Last of Us 2 falls apart. And I'm gonna give y'all my perspective on things.